Vikas Singh, my question to you is this 2011 letter from the Finance Ministry the first government acceptance of a mistake in the whole 2G scam?
Well,
I'll tell you, Pranab, I'll tell you somehow the panelists so far have really not been able to understand what the issue is. I'll tell you,
why?
There is a very serious issue in this. When the telecom sector was initially opened for the private sector, the purpose was never to earn revenue. The purpose was only to improve tele-density because the government didn't have the money to roll out services itself. It didn't have the budget to roll out services itself. So that's why you brought in the private sector. Now there are two issues to it. One is the pricing issue and the other is the tweaking done by Raja to favor one at the expense of the other, to do a different cut-off date, etc., which nobody can justify. As far as the pricing issue is concerned, Arnab, you will understand that whatever price was fixed as a matter of policy applied across the board to everybody. It is not that it applied to A and didn't apply to B. So it was a decision which was taken across the board. So nobody will pay anything to anybody if a general across the board decision is taken that this is the price at which spectrum is to be given. Now you will understand, Arnab, that if today the telecom, when it started, services had started, the rate was 16 rupees per minute. It has come down to 30 paisa per minute. So as far as the policy decision is concerned, which is that price of the spectrum should be at uniform for the subsequent players also, has the approval of TRAI. TRAI made a very specific recommendation for level playing field, and TRAI had a very good justification for do that. Because by the time these new licenses were to be rolled out, the existing players already had about 10 megahertz of spectrum free of cost.
So I have a question.
The initial spectrum is only 4 megahertz is 4.4.
No, I have a question on dates.
Point is something else.
I have a question on dates. No, Mr. Salve, here's a question on dates. I take your point, Mr. Vikas. I have a question on dates. When were the LOIs issued? The letter of intents were issued in January 2008. They were issued in January 2008.
Of course, and after that is after the TRAI recommendation of after the TRAI recommendation of September 2007, which said that the new players should be given the same license fee. So neither Mr. Salve
why I'm asking that?
nor Mr. Subramanian Swamy has understood.
Reason I'm asking this.
There is no question of loss. The larger loss which is being depicted is on the basis of a value-added services which is auctioned later on, which has nothing to do with the original.
But that is not the point.
The 2G services.
So this, I am actually the reason I asked. I'll tell you the point. I'm put the point, and then I want Salve also to come in. Question is this: the LOIs were issued on the 10th of January, as Poranjoy rightly said, in the year 2008. The Prime Minister said in the Rajya Sabha on February 21st, 2011. The Prime Minister said that while the Finance Minister, while he initially had a different view which he communicated to me on January 15, subsequently consulted with the Minister DOT, and the two ministers worked out an agreed formula on spectrum charges which was reported to me on July 4th, 2008. My question is this: LOIs issued January 2008. The formula agreed between DOT and the Finance Ministry is July 4th, 2008. How could there have been convergence in June 2008, Mr. Salve, after the LOIs were issued? How can you have LOIs issued January, ministries decide June?
No.
5 months later, I don't understand how.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you something, Arnab.
Yes.
First of all, let's get one thing clear. We have argued in the court that no loss has been caused, as is commonly understood. The CAG report proceeds on an erroneous premise. Now, I don't think that's, if we get into debating that, we are really moving aside from the issue which you want to raise. The 2011 Ministry of Finance letter. Does the Ministry of Finance letter raise anything new? According to me, it only puts together in one place stuff which has partly already been there in the public domain. It has been very clear that the issue whether this should be auctioned or it should be given at 2001 prices has been discussed between the Ministry of Telecommunications and the Prime Minister's office, between the Ministry of Telecommunications and the Finance Ministry.
No, it's more than that.
The Telecom Commission, which has the Finance Secretary, was not called for the meeting, but it appears one day before there was some meeting between the Finance Minister. This, I don't think, has come on the record.
It's a little more than that.
It has now come on the record that on 9th January 07, there was such a meeting. So if you are going to blame somebody for the loss. If you accept the theory that there is a loss, then the government and the cabinet and definitely Ministry of Finance has to answer as much as the Ministry of Telecom for this loss.
It's a view of
a
finance
there is no
minister.
Loss, then none of them have to answer.
It's a view of a finance minister, Mr. Salve. Why would a sitting finance minister, knowing fully well the political impact and the potential embarrassment of this note, which can be accessed by RTI, say something like this? Say something like this, not with a view to embarrass another minister. For sure.
That is one of the good things about the system where records are maintained and there has to be transparency.
Mr. Paranjay did not agree with you. Paranjay, you know, on my question on the dates, LOI is issued January. And
no, I want to ask a question.
Yes. Who's your question to?
I want to ask a question to Mr. Vikas Singh.
Yes.
Does Mr. Vikas Singh believe there was any loss? And if Mr. Vikas Singh believes there was no loss to the exchequer, why is Mr. Raja in jail? Second question to Mr. Vikas Singh. It's okay if you have auctions in 2001. It's okay if you have auctions in 2010. What was wrong between 2002 and 2008 that you chose not to have auctions and then describe this as public policy, this is what Telecom Regulatory Authority has said? I fail to understand his logic. I do not know on what basis he is arguing this point.
Now, Mr. Vikas Singh
he may not agree with the amount of loss, he may not agree with the Comptroller and Auditor General's view that it was 1,76,000. But does he, I mean, why is the CBI still insisting there was at least a 30,000 crore loss?
Let him respond to you now.
These are questions that Mr. Vikas Singh should also be answering.
He's answering now.
Yes, I'll answer those questions. Can I answer now?
Go on, please, Vikas Singh. Yeah, Mr. Singh.
Yeah, can I answer those questions?
Go on, sir, please.
The policy between 2001 and till the end of 2008 were dealing with 2G. 2G is a service which is meant for the masses. It is a service which is basically aimed at penetration. It is a service which is aimed to improve tele-density. It is a service which was meant to be affordable to the people of India. Today, if my driver can talk to his wife 3 times in a day, it is because the service is affordable. Now, what you got as an auction price is 2010 is 3G.
No, sir.
3G is a value-added service for a high-end customer.
Sir, your first...
It was never meant for penetration. It was never meant to be affordable. It was never meant to have tele-density. 3G was a different... and the entire CAG calculation is on the basis of the value that you got for 3G, saying interpolating that and putting that at 2G and say that the loss is what has been caused to the government by virtue of this 2G.
Mr. Singh, your
policy decision.
Can I react?
No, 1 minute.
Can I react?
I just want to point out here to you, Mr. Singh.
No, I have not answered your entire question.
Okay.
If you permit me, can I answer the entire question?
Yes, go ahead. Straight, go ahead.
You were saying that why suddenly auction in 2010? You should not forget that 2010 auction is also decided by Mr. Raja. It is not decided by Mr. Subramanian Swamy. So it is because of a different service altogether. And TRAI had recommended in 2007 that whenever you go for anything other than 2G, it should always be by the auction.
No, it's not completely true.
In September of 2007 that as far as 2G is concerned, it should be always put at the same price because you don't and you should understand one thing. When 122 licenses have been given by Mr. Raja, today about 80% of them have not been able to go on services. So something so free
Mr. Singh, Mr. Singh, you're not right there. Mr. Singh, you're not right there because Mr. Subramanian Swamy, is it true or not that in and around June or July 2007, the then Finance Minister, Mr. Subbarao, wrote to the then Telecom Secretary telling him reconsider? I think it was DS Mathur. Mathur said no. Then Subbarao wrote once again to the Telecom Ministry saying, how can you give it at 2001 rates? Halt all the allocation. Why aren't you auctioning or at least going in for, some kind of indexation?
No. Mr. Subbarao's last letter was November 22, 2007.
Yes.
And he's raised this question there and it was rejected by the Telecom Secretary. After that, the Finance Ministry never raised this question.
Why?
On the 30th of January, the minutes show that, which was recorded by Mr. Subbarao himself, that the two ministers had met and decided that there will be no auction, 2, that the price will be 2001, and the price for a one-time spectrum charge will be 0. So
civil servants understood that the minister has already made up his mind, so they kept quiet. So there is no question of the finance ministry raising it. It all became old hat. The real question is, Mr. Raja is in jail because he is supposed to have fixed the price at 2001. Now we know by documents that he didn't do it alone. So Mr. Chidambaram should also be subject to a CBI inquiry. That's the simple matter. Whether Mr. Chidambaram is guilty of a criminal offence and all, we'll see in the trial court later. But right now, this is the question, that the CBI has not bothered to examine Mr. Chidambaram at all, when in fact he and Raja were empowered to decide the price, and they did so.
Legally, before I ask my last question there to Neeraj Kishan Kaul, legally, Mr. Harish Salve, is this difficult now to avoid this bit of fact which has emerged? This is.
See, I don't want to get into commenting on the issue which the Supreme Court is being addressed on by the government, namely that the court now has no more any power to issue any further directions. The problem is, as again I told you, and I think what Mr. Swamy is also trying to say is, the fact that it was a collective decision is there on the record, it is reinforced by this letter. What Mr. Swamy is saying is, then, well, somebody must look into this to see whether there was a conspiracy even in the criminal side. I don't want to comment on the merits of that, because that's something which is being heard in court. But there is a serious problem here, Arnab, and this is a problem which we've been raising from day one. Logically, one view is there is no loss. I subscribe to the view that there was no loss as such caused. But if you do not accept that, as the CBI has also not accepted that, they have said at least 30,000 crores. If you do not accept that, as Paranjay keeps saying, and their point of view, and that's the point of view, that there is a loss which has been caused to the nation, then this loss has been caused by a collective decision, and that is now even factually established.
So it becomes, no, but even so, Mr. Kaul, can there be, I never got an answer to my question on dates. The Prime Minister said in Parliament that the agreement between the DOT Minister and the then Finance Minister was communicated to me in a meeting on July 4, 2008. But the LOIs were issued in January 2008. Isn't there how can LOIs be issued before convergence between the two ministries, Mr. Kaul? Isn't that striking?
No. Arnab, I said that earlier as well. I don't think this debate is about pricing and whether loss was caused or not. The principal issue is that this is not about Raja alone. These are major policy decisions, and it's unbelievable that a policy decision of such ramifications could have been taken by one man. Surely the government, the cabinet were all involved, and that's why repeatedly the issue of collective responsibility of the cabinet, everyone being in the loop, and if it's a flawed decision, then the responsibility lying with the government comes in. Criminal culpability is another issue altogether.
Well, Paranjay, you expect Mr. Chidambaram to respond directly?
I want to make I want to make a few points. You know, it's not just a delay in getting, informing the Prime Minister. Why was the DOT Secretary's letter
disregarded
to the Finance Secretary shown to the Finance Minister 40 days later and a day before the LOIs were issued? Point 2, for Mr. Vikas Singh, some information. In 2001, there were 4 million mobile phones. In 2008, there were close to 250 million mobile phones. That was the difference between 2001 and 2008. Secondly, 2G, 3G spectrum, Mr. Raja says that the difference between PDS rice and Basmati rice is the same spectrum, is the same electromagnetic waves, it's the technology that you use and the services you offer. Yes, sir. In 3G spectrum, 10 times higher price. Tata Docomo gives you vanilla voice service at a price which is lower than 2G spectrum voice calls. How is that possible, sir? Are you dealing with apples or oranges, or is that a figment of your imagination?
Story is becoming big tonight, and let's see whether Mr. Chidambaram responds.
Lack of understanding of the 3G services. I can only say that Prananjay is showing his complete lack of understanding of what is 3G service.
Now I will wrap it up at this. I will wrap it up at this point of time by saying the story is in the political domain. Let's see if Mr. Chidambaram responds, or how this matter moves in court tomorrow. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Big story.